My name is Tracey L. Rogers of Stormie Grace's YouTube Academy, and I am really excited to join you for today's class where I will teach you how to write a horoscope. This class is meant to be a lot of fun. It's a class for astrologers at all levels. And what's most important about this class is that it should be a ton of fun. I know that you have all gained so much knowledge, a wealth of knowledge from my colleagues who have been teaching and sharing their knowledge and their wisdom on the practice of astrology. And hopefully you've gained and have benefited from all of the resources that have been provided. And I hope that that's the case for this particular class, where I will do my best to teach you how to write your own horoscope, whether it's for personal use or when it comes to writing for other publications, consulting individuals through an astrology practice. I hope that, in other words, you are able to gain from this class, as I'm sure you've gained from some of the other classes. And so ideally, this will be interactive. This class is pre-recorded, but my understanding is that once it actually is published, that I'll be with you and other teacher assistants to help guide you through the course, especially if you have any questions. And so for your reference, I've got an itinerary to the left of my screen. I also have some notes and resources that I will share with you by sharing my screen, and hopefully these resources will be helpful aids for you. And I'll also be sure to provide the resources to the Academy and teacher assistants so that you can have copies on your own. First, we'll talk about what a horoscope is. I think that might be helpful. Then I'll probably go into just a broad level overview of what you've been learning in these classes so far, everything from zodiac signs to houses to the planets in our solar system. We'll do some practice interpretations, and then I'll also be sure to create some space for you to actually write your horoscopes. So I hope no one's feeling intimidated. This should be a lot of fun. I do want to take some time to, in fact, do the overview of the signs and the planets and the houses, because when it comes to interpretation and then interpreting for the purpose of crafting a horoscope, you really want to make sure that you've got a deep understanding of, what the signs represent, what the houses represent, what the planets represent, or at least enough of an understanding so that you can actually convey the information in a way that someone who's reading your horoscope would find of resonance. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. What is a horoscope? I'm sure that all of you watching have read your own horoscopes. And so I don't need to really describe to you what it is. I'm sure you know. If you've ever read a magazine, you probably have an idea of what a horoscope is. But the word horoscope is derived from the Greek words aura and scopus. Aura stands for time, scopus is observer. And so when you put the two together, it's literally time observer or markers of the hour. That's what a horoscope is. And it's essentially a divination tool, a divination practice, where astrologers look at planet alignments in the sky and essentially interpret how people's lives are being affected, right? And we write about it. It's meant to be a predictive tool. It's meant to be a divination tool. It's also sometimes just really entertaining depending on what platform you are reading your horoscope on. But for real, it is meant to be something that is informative, something that foreshadows activity that's playing out in one's life, for the purpose of that individual to be able to make informed decisions. Horoscopes are based on planet alignment and how they essentially affect the position of the sun at one's moment of birth. And so obviously that explains why when you see horoscopes, they are written for individual sun signs. Okay. And so that's essentially, how this practice kind of derived. Again, marker of the hour. So someone who's literally observing alignments of planets in the sky and making note of or marking how those planets are affecting us, specifically when it comes to the placement of the sun at our moment of birth. And so when it comes to, interpreting planet alignments and how they're affecting the different sun signs, it's really necessary to know the planets and the sun signs, the signs of our zodiac, right? And so I'm going to share with you a cheat sheet here, and we'll go through it together, just as a reminder or a refresher, if you will, when it comes to the signs of the zodiac and the planets in our solar system and what they all represent. Again, I know that you've probably learned a great deal about all of this in other classes, so I'll try to keep it brief because I don't doubt that you all have been studying and you know this information. So let's start with the zodiac signs. There are 12 zodiac signs in Western practices, and all of the zodiac signs belong to one of 4 elements: earth, air, fire, and water. You want to make sure that you are keeping the elements in mind, because again, that's going to infuse and inform how you're crafting a horoscope, right? And so the fire signs of the zodiac are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Aries, as the first sign of the zodiac, is the ruler of the first house in astrology, and we'll go into the houses. Leo, as the 5th sign of the zodiac, is the ruler of the 5th house in astrology, and Sagittarius, as the 9th sign of the zodiac, is the ruler of the 9th house in astrology. And these are just helpful ways to remember the houses, especially when we begin to craft horoscopes. Okay. Fire signs, I often describe as the doers of the zodiac. Fire is an energy that's known to be very assertive, very action oriented, very doing in nature, very initiative in nature. And again, these little words, keywords, buzzwords, if you will, can be helpful when crafting a horoscope. And so Aries, some buzzwords for Aries include energetic, direct, initiating. Challenging keywords can be selfish, combative, impatient. Keywords for Leo: creative, entertainer, natural leader, loyal, charismatic. Challenging keywords: proud, bossy, self-centered. Positive keywords for Sagittarius: adventurous, philosophical, expansive, traveler, truth seeker. Challenging keywords: self-righteous, distracted, non-committal. These are just some buzzwords that can be really helpful, again, as you are crafting your horoscopes for each of the zodiac signs, okay? So you want to keep these things in mind as we move through this class and you begin to craft your own scope. Earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Taurus rules the 2nd house. Virgo rules the 6th house. Capricorn rules the 10th house. And earth signs I often describe as the planners of the zodiac. These are signs that tend to move through life in ways that are pragmatic, in ways that are routine, in ways that are ambitious. It's a sign, these are signs that tend to be pretty grounded people, pretty salt of the earth people. And some buzzwords for Taurus include fiscally secure, stable, sensual, predictable, change averse, which would be a challenging keyword, stubborn, immovable. Virgo, service oriented, detail oriented, highly organized. I always say even the messiest Virgo knows where everything is. Challenging keywords: perfectionistic, critical, judgmental. These are all things that you've heard about this sun sign, right? Capricorn: ambitious, disciplined, strategic, structured, systematic. Challenging keywords can be rigid, dominant, heavy-handed, controlling. And so again, some phrases to keep in mind as we're crafting horoscopes. Air signs are the thinkers of the zodiac. So these are signs that tend to operate in the realm of ideas. Air signs are very cerebral in nature, very analytical in nature. The three air signs are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Gemini, ruler of the 3rd, Libra, ruler of the 7th, Aquarius, ruler of the 11th. Buzzwords for Gemini, very studious. I often describe Gemini as kind of like the forever student of the zodiac, always wanting to learn, absorbing knowledge and information, strongly intelligent, knows a lot about a lot of different things. Challenging keywords, sometimes that mental energy can be a bit scattered. It leads Gemini to, navigate some anxiety, be unfocused. And so these are some things that to be remembered for those challenging keywords. Libra, ruler of the 7th house, fair, considerate, relationship oriented. I often describe Libras as like the social justice warriors of the zodiac, because not only is Libra highly focused on building healthy relationships that are interpersonal in nature, but also when it comes to serving underserved communities, when it comes to fighting for the underdog, when it comes to operating from a strong code of ethic. That is Libra's energy as well. Challenging keywords for Libra include indecisive, too accommodating, too amenable, too people-pleasing. And so these are some buzzwords. And then Aquarius, friendly, independent, innovative. I describe Aquarians as kind of the wizards living amongst the muggle world, to reference Harry Potter. This is a sign that's ahead of its time. Aquarians are the visionaries of the zodiac. Challenging keywords, unemotional, detached, impersonal, all of which not true, but oftentimes Aquarians can be accused of such, primarily because they spend so much time up here. So those are some challenging keywords. And then final element, water. Water signs are the feelers of the zodiac. These are signs that operate in the realm of emotions. Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. Cancer is the ruler of the 4th house, Scorpio, ruler of the 8th, Pisces, 12th. Cancer's positive keywords or buzzwords: nurturing, giving, family oriented. I often describe Cancers as kind of like the emotional laborers of the zodiac. It's a sign that's known to be very matriarchal. Challenging keywords: moody, temperamental might be a better word, codependent, retreating in nature, passive aggressive, but tenacious. Those are some buzzwords for Cancer. Scorpio, always a difficult sign to describe for me personally anyway. Ruler of the 8th house. This is a sign that's known to be very instinctual, very perceptive, very regenerative. I often describe Scorpios as the probers, the investigators of the zodiac that need to overstand, not understand. And so there's a tendency for Scorpio to kind of dive in and excavate, really piercing through the core of what is. Challenging keywords: secretive, controlling, vengeful. Again, all things that you hear in mainstream media about Scorpio. Doesn't mean it's true, but oftentimes Scorpios can be possessive, and there's a strong need for emotional loyalty with this sign. And then finally, Pisces, spiritual, intuitive. I often describe Pisces as kind of like the Zen master Buddha of the zodiac, known to be very tolerant, very forgiving, very understanding. Pisces just has this broader awareness of humanity. Pisces understands that everything in life is relative, right? It's gray. And so it's why Pisces is able to love in ways that are unconditional and show such, big amounts of compassion and empathy. Challenging keywords: vague, disorganized, forgetful. Pisces is the escapist artist of the zodiac, or the escape artist. This is a sign that's very impressionable and can lose itself as a result. So those are some other challenging keywords for Pisces. And so again, you want to make sure that you are taking note of the buzzwords. You want to make sure that you're taking note of the different elements. You want to make sure that you are taking note of the signs and the houses that they rule, because obviously signs and house rulership, the energy is going to be similar, right? So like, for example, Taurus is the ruler of the second house. The second house is the house of our values, what makes us feel financially secure, what makes us feel safe, what gives us a sense of self-esteem, how we're able to build a relationship with the material world, how we're able to build fiscal wealth. Those are the things that the second house is representative of. And that's what Taurus is representative of, as well as the sign, as the member of the zodiac. So when you can, keep in mind the house rulership and the sign that rules it, and even the planets, as we go into the planets, you may find that will help you when it comes to crafting a horoscope. Okay, so these are some tips to keep in mind. Okay, now let's move over to the planets. And so you've got the personal planets, those planets, including the sun, even though we know the sun isn't a planet, but you've got those planets closest to the sun that make really quick transits, quick orbits. And so have, more of a personalized touch and impact on us down below. And then those outer planets that are thematic, that tend to bring themes that, can make long transits around the sun, and so bring long-term impacts as a result that often tend to affect generations, right, as a whole. And so when we talk about the sun, basic character, our ego self, who we are on a core level, rules the sign of Leo. Keywords: ego, vitality, conscious expression, life force. The sun is who I am. Exalted in Aries, but I won't go there. I'll try and keep it simple and basic. And so the sun really represents our basic conscious ego self. The moon in astrology describes our feeling nature, our emotional needs, what makes us feel emotionally safe and secure, ruler of the sign of Cancer in astrology. Keywords: lunar, feminine, needy, emotional, temperamental, nurturing, receptive, intuitive, conjuring. Those are some buzzwords for the moon. Mercury represents how we think, how we communicate, how we absorb knowledge, how we process information. Ruler of the signs Gemini and Virgo. Traditional rulership, I want to add. I know that there's often, questioning of traditional rulership and according to which, sect, if you will. We're going to go by traditional rulership for the sake of, again, keeping things simple. Keywords: messenger, information, transportation, thinking, logic, communication. Those are the things that Mercury represents. Venus, traditional ruler of Taurus and Libra, represents money, relationships, right? So Venus really speaks to what we value when it comes to our relationships and when it comes to financial wellness. And again, remember, the planets rule the signs rule the houses, the planets then rule the houses. So you're going to find some similar energy here. All things to keep in mind as we craft a horoscope. Mars describes how we use our energy to get things done, how we accomplish our goals. Ruler of the sign Aries, co-ruler of Scorpio, former traditional ruler of Scorpio. Keywords: assertive, aggressive, angry, impulsive, energy, competitive, combative, direct, straightforward, forceful. These are all some buzzwords from Mars. Now we move into the outer planets. Jupiter represents luck, fortune, big endeavors. Jupiter is the great expansionist in our solar system. And so it has this wonderful way of broadening life experiences. Keep in mind, Jupiter can expand in ways that are abundant and can expand in ways that are excessive. There's a difference. And so that's going to be an important difference to keep in mind should you ever write a horoscope involving the placement of Jupiter in the sky. Saturn, where we face some of our biggest challenges. I like to think of Saturn really as where we tend to master things over time, having put forth the work and effort and overcoming difficulties and restrictions. Ruler of the signs Capricorn and Aquarius. Keywords: restriction, reality, challenges, karma, limitation, structure. All these keywords connect to the signs as well, so keep that in mind. Uranus: rebellion, unpredictability, disruption. Uranus synonymous with that 7-year itch, that 7-year cycle that says we got to shake life up a little bit. Ruler of the sign of Aquarius. Keywords: abrupt change, chaos, innovation, electricity, wisdom, insights, flashes of insight, foresights, futuristic. These are some buzzwords for Uranus. Neptune represents spirituality and intuitive purification. This is the great illusionist of our solar system. I often describe Neptune as the planet that forces us to discern, to ask the question, is this real or is this imagined? So that's why Neptune is the great illusionist, ruler of the sign Pisces. Keywords include mystic, mysticism, dreams, magic, healing, deception, ambiguity, otherworldliness. Those are some buzzwords for Neptune. And then Pluto, the great transformer, ruler of the sign Scorpio. Pluto acts as this sifting influence that brings to consciousness what's impure, what's toxic, what's decaying, all for the purpose of purge and transformation, right? And so keywords include transformation, rebirth, depth, excavation, power, inherent power. Those are some buzzwords for Pluto, okay? All right, so this is a high-level overview, okay? We've been through the zodiac signs, we've been through the planets. I also want to point out this here, which is basically you know what it is, the Zodiac Wheel. And with this Zodiac Wheel, what will be important for you to keep in mind is the order of the Zodiac, okay? And so we're going counterclockwise here, clockwise here, by order. And so that too will be helpful when it comes to crafting a horoscope. And obviously, these are really basic, simple things like, duh, Tracey, I know what a zodiac wheel is. I know the order of the zodiac signs. There's a reason why I'm emphasizing the importance of knowing these things. And I will explain that to you very shortly, okay? All right, so let's practice. I want to practice some interpretations here, right? Maybe you've done this in other classes, but being able to interpret what it means to have a planet in a sign is kind of like, the building block to being able to interpret for the sake of writing an actual horoscope. And so let's play a game. I'm going to stop sharing this. Well, actually, I think what I will do is close this out and share my screen so that you all can see a number of different resources. So let me share my desktop. Okay, so I will keep this up, but I also want to bring in some little cards here. Full disclosure, what you're looking at are my drawings. I'm not quite sure how long ago I did this. It may have been 7 years ago, and I don't remember why. But as I was going through some of the notes and tools and things that I've created just in the past for other classes that I've taught, I thought this was fun, and I thought I would bring it into today's class. So what I would like for you to do is pick a planet and pick a sign and do an interpretation for what it means to have said planet in said sign. So for example, we see here on my left, the glyphs of all the planets, and then here of all the zodiac signs. And so what I want you to do is take a few minutes to interpret what it means to, let's say, have Mars in the sign of Taurus, right? or what it means to have Mercury in the sign of Cancer, or what it means to have Jupiter in the sign of Libra. So just pick one or pick two interpretations. And what I'm going to do is just give you a few minutes so that you can take out a pen and paper and write some interpretations down, okay? So pick a planet, pick a sign. I will leave my cheat sheet up so that you can look at some buzzwords and give you a few minutes so that you can, in fact, write some interpretation. So pick a planet, pick a sign, and then write your interpretation of what it means to have said planet in said sign. I'll put these down, and then here is the cheat sheet for you to work from. And I will give you a few minutes. What might be helpful is to definitely take a look at the buzzwords and use some of your own words. Feel free to even consider your experiences with people that you know who may have their sun in a particular zodiac sign, or who may have their rising, or who may have their Venus in a particular zodiac sign. Consider your own chart. I'm sure many of you have seen your own chart. Do an interpretation or description of what it means to have certain planets in the signs in your chart as they stand. These can be helpful instead of sticking to the buzzwords, but just really kind of, you know, falling back on your experiences or what you've learned about some of the planets, about some of the planet sign combinations, and let that also be a guide as you're writing your interpretations. I often like to think of interpretations as telling a story, and just kind of envisioning or imagining, you know, planet as its own separate entity, sign as its own separate entity, and what that relationship looks like when you bring them together. So that too can be a helpful tip. Give you a couple more minutes just to kind of, you know, get your feet wet a little bit. Okay. A few more seconds here. All right. Okay, so hopefully that exercise felt comfortable. Like I said, when it comes to doing interpretations, and we're just talking about basic, right? Planet and sign interpretations. you want to consider the buzzwords. You want to keep in mind your own personal experiences, what you've learned, what you've gained. You also may want to try the exercise of looking at planet and sign as their own separate entity and the relationship that they build when they come together. So for example, Mars is this energy that's assertive and direct and aggressive and straightforward. Whereas Taurus, for example, is this sign that, tends to be rather deliberate and is, steady and, tends to take its time and values little creature comforts and what makes it feel safe, right? And so when you put Mars, this assertive aggressor, in the sign of Taurus, you might interpret that as an energy that is very intentional, right? You might interpret the energy of Taurus, especially being a fixed sign, an earth sign, as this energy that, is grounded and practical. And with Mars here, Mars and Taurus then might become examples of the tortoise and the hare, right? In the fable, the tortoise. That tortoise makes it to the finish line, but does so in its own time. And so that's how I would, kind of blend the two. Mars and Taurus natives are very intentional. They don't like to be pushed. They don't like to be rushed. Because Taurus is so steady, there's a willfulness that allows Mars and Taurus to accomplish goals. And at the same time, Mars and Taurus need to do it in their own time. And in a way that feels comfortable and in a way that feels, paced. Some folks might accuse Mars and Taurus of taking too damn long and being too slow. Some folks might accuse Mars and Taurus as being lazy or procrastinating, but really Mars and Taurus just needs to take its time in anything and everything that it does. That's how Mars and Taurus uses its energy to assert itself in a way that is deliberate, right? So that can be a helpful tool when it comes to looking at it from a relationship lens. What do these two separate things build when they come together? How does it look when they come together? Another example would be, let's say, Venus in the sign of Gemini, right? Venus is about love and relationships and values and money and possessions. And so when you put Venus in the sign of Gemini, Gemini has this versatile energy that is, very intelligent and needs a lot of mental stimulation. You may describe someone with Venus in Gemini as a versatile lover. You may describe someone with Venus in Gemini or the energy of Venus in Gemini as representative of, dueling dynamics when it comes to how they do courtship. You might describe from a financial perspective, Venus in Gemini as an energy that has multiple accounts, that has, multiple streams of income, multiple assets that support their financial growth. And you may also describe Venus in Gemini as an energy that can be somewhat scattered and maybe unfocused when it comes to managing their finances, or when it comes to doing the dance of relationship, or being an energy that requires a lot of stimulation and mental rapport when it comes to how they do courtship, right? So again, you want to get in the process of kind of creating as entities this persona, right, for the planets, especially when we think of their archetypes, and same with their zodiac signs. And then blend that together in a way that, builds this kind of relationship between the two. That can be a helpful way of doing interpretations, especially for the sake of writing a horoscope, okay? So keep that in mind. And so now let's move into the houses, all right? And so we know that there are 12 zodiac signs, 12 astrological houses. And the houses in astrology represent different life areas. Each house tells the story of what our experiences will be in different life areas. And so remember that each sign correlates to a house. Each sign rules a house. And that's why you want to know the order of the signs, right? So when we look at the first house, well, the first house, the first sign of the zodiac is Aries, right? So that means Aries is the ruler of the first house. Second sign of the zodiac is Taurus. Taurus is the ruler of the second house. Third sign of the zodiac is Gemini. Gemini is the ruler of the third house. So this is important to keep in mind when it comes to writing horoscopes, okay? And again, the houses in sign rulership are similar. So first house is the house of self, appearances, how I present myself to the world, my sense of identity, who I am. All things that are connected to the energy of Aries, this energy that is initiating, this energy that is entrepreneurial, this energy that is free-spirited and needs to be able to self-actualize, right? Taurus, second house, which is the house of money and income and values and possessions, ruled by the sign of Taurus that needs to feel safe, that needs personal security, that needs financial security. Third house is the house of activities of the mind, mental pursuits, learning, training, education, the people that I interact with regularly in my immediate surroundings, in my neighborhoods, in my environment, the siblings that I grew up with, the classmates that I had in grade school, my formative years around learning. That's the third house, ruled by Gemini, which is the sign that loves to learn, right? Fourth house is the house of my roots, my lineage, my foundations, my emotional conditioning, how I was raised, my relationships with family and relatives, all things represented by the sign of Cancer, right? This watery energy that operates in the realm of emotions and is known to be matriarchal in nature. Fifth house is fun, creativity, romance, how I'm able to live my most authentic life and be my most authentic self. The spark in me that allows me to create things and put my stamp on those things and be recognized for my creative spark. That's the fifth house, ruled by Leo, the entertainer of the zodiac, the creator of the zodiac, the sign ruled by the sun, center of the universe, that values being acknowledged for what makes it special, what makes it unique, the inner child. That's the fifth house. Sixth house is my hustle, my schedule, my grind, my day-to-day, how I manage my daily affairs, everything from my work, my health, walking my dog, scheduling my doctor's appointments. That is the sixth house, how I'm being of use, how I am curating a quality way of living, ruled by the sign of Virgo that values this kind of purity, this kind of efficiency on a core level. Seventh house, ruled by Libra, the relationship sign. This is the house of relationships, partnerships, collaborations, how I am sharing and merging with others in a partnership fashion, how I am building companionships, how I am connecting with folks, finding common ground, even when it comes to my enemies. That's the seventh house with Libra. The eighth house, this is the house nobody wants to go to. This is that sketch house on the corner that people will cross the street from so that they don't have to walk past it. This is the house of intimate matters, intimate dealings, all of the things that require some level of vulnerability and come with some level of risk. That is the eighth house. Whether this looks like sexual intimacy, whether this looks like financial investments, whether this looks like partnership commitments, marriage, intimate exchanges, and a therapy setting, right? The psychological intimacy that comes in that setting, shared resources, joint ventures. That is that eighth house of, transformation as a result of really merging and sharing ourselves and our resources in ways that come with risk and vulnerability. So that's that eighth house, that taboo house that really sees us kind of dissolve into something else or someone else, okay? Ninth house is about journeying, right? Sorry, and coming back to the eighth house, that's that house ruled by Scorpio, okay? Ninth house is that journeying house, how I broaden myself, how I step outside of my comfort zone, how I stretch and expand and see the world, and become more worldly and philosophical and spiritual as a result. That's that house ruled by Sagittarius, right? This truth-seeking energy, this experiential learner. 10th house is about my legacy, how I am being recognized when it comes to my skills, when it comes to my vocation and the work that I do. It's the house of my career. It's the house of, where I am being, applauded and acknowledged for my contribution. It's the house of reputation, public image. And so it's Capricorn's house, right, of ambitions. The 11th house is where I fit in, my tribe, my community, where I can connect with folks of like minds, especially for a shared cause. It's this house of friendship and associates, and where I'm able to align with different groups and organizations and affiliations for a larger cause that may be philanthropic in nature, that may be innovative, that may center technological advancement that benefits societies. That's that 11th house ruled by the sign of Aquarius. And then finally, the 12th house is the house of who I am behind the scenes, my hidden self, the subconscious aspects of life. It's the house of sleep, right? It's the house of intuition. It's the house of, my inner dwellings, what stays hidden, the closing of a cycle, my spiritual foundations. That's that 12th house ruled by the Zen master Buddha, also known as Pisces. Okay. And so these are the houses. Again, the houses correlate to the zodiac signs. And so these are things that you want to keep in mind when it comes to crafting a horoscope. All right. We've got the houses. We know what the houses represent. And we've got the zodiac signs and the planets. We know what they represent. Okay. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing because I would like to check my handy dandy agenda because now we're going to start writing some horoscopes, okay? And when it comes to writing a horoscope, remember that horoscopes basically show how planet alignments are affecting the position of one's sun at their moment of birth. So that's why there are sun sign horoscopes. That's why when you see a horoscope in the newspaper or in a magazine, it's literally by sun sign, right? They're general for anyone who shares that sun sign. And you may find that as you're crafting these horoscopes, that it really kind of is up to you what you want to write about, okay? So while the horoscope itself is going to be general for each zodiac sign, what you choose to write about may differ depending on the astrologer. So that's what you want to keep in mind. So let's say, for example, the sun right now is, in the sign of Virgo. And Jupiter right now is retrograde in the sign of Aquarius. And when I say right now, it is, what is today's date? August 27th on the East Coast, in Northern America, at, I don't know what time it is, but that's the date it is, right? 2021, okay? So we know sun's in Virgo, Jupiter is retrograde in the sign of Aquarius. You may have one astrologer that writes about what it means to have the sun in Virgo for all of the signs of the zodiac. You may find that another astrologer writes about what it means to have Jupiter retrograde in the sign of Aquarius for all of the signs of the zodiac. So again, the horoscope itself is going to be general for all of the signs, okay? But you may find some horoscopes are different depending on what the astrologer is writing about. And some astrologers like to keep it simple, where we might write about Mercury retrograde. We might write about the sun's ingress into a new zodiac sign. We might write about major planetary shifts, like, the Pluto-Saturn conjunction in Capricorn of last year, or the great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn last year. So you have, some horoscopes or some astrologers who want to keep it simple that way. Then you have astrologers like Susan Miller, for example, or Henry Zeltzer, who write pages of horoscopes that talk about what's playing out throughout the entire month, what's playing out throughout the entire year, and capturing a lot more planet alignments and activities as a result. Then we haven't even talked about getting into the aspects, right? Very soon we're going to have Uranus. Well, we're actually experiencing this right now, Uranus and Saturn, and kind of a wide square to one another. And so that right there too is an aspect that someone might want to write about. And that's when we're really getting into the weeds, right? Because not only do you have to interpret what does it mean to have Uranus and Taurus square Saturn in Aquarius right now as we speak, but then you have to interpret that for each sign of the zodiac when you're writing a horoscope. So you can get into the weeds with this. You can also keep it really simple. It just depends on your style, right? Daily horoscopes are not going to be as informative as a weekly horoscope. Weekly horoscopes aren't going to be as informative as a monthly horoscope. Monthly horoscopes won't be as informative as an annual horoscope, because there's always something happening. And so each astrologer is going to write about something different. One thing that I personally have noticed as an astrologer who does write weekly horoscopes is that usually we're all kind of focused on the main stuff, right? So like, we'll see horoscopes about sun changing signs. We'll see horoscopes about Venus retrograde, Mars retrograde, eclipses. Like, these are some main events that you'll find most astrologers will in fact write about. And still, you can really kind of pick and choose whatever you want, okay? And so, again, writing horoscopes is not an uncommon thing, and every astrologer is going to have their own approach, their own technique, okay? For me, and what I find is helpful in terms of how I teach writing horoscopes is to use a count system, okay? And so I want you to bear with me as I walk you through this count system. So I'm going to share my screen again. And let's say I want to write a horoscope for what it means for all of the signs of the zodiac as the sun makes its way through the sign of Virgo, okay? So in other words, I'm going to write a horoscope for Aries about what it means for Aries to have the sun in Virgo currently by transit. I'm going to do the same thing for Taurus. I'm going to do the same thing for Gemini. I'm going to do it for all of the signs, okay? So the topic of this horoscope is the sun's current transit or ingress of the sign of Virgo, okay? And so when you are writing horoscopes, I like to teach this as, the count system, or using a count system to write the horoscope, okay? And so we're talking about the sun in the sign of Virgo. And the first horoscope we're going to write about what it means to have the sun in Virgo will be for the sign of Aries. And so again, I'm going to write a horoscope for the sign of Aries about what it means to have the sun currently moving through the sign of Virgo, okay? And so since Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, then Aries is going to go in this first house. And this is going to be the case for all of the zodiac signs. So if I'm writing for Taurus, since we're talking about Taurus, right? Taurus is going to go in this first house. If I'm writing for Gemini, since we're talking about Gemini, how Gemini is impacted, Gemini is going to go in this first house. If I'm writing for Cancer, how Cancer is impacted, Cancer is going to go in this first house, okay? And so this is going to help with the count system. And so we're writing a horoscope for Aries. Aries goes here, but we want to talk about the sun in the sign of Virgo. So this is where you want to remember the order of the zodiac. And this is where you want to remember the houses, okay? And so this little grid here can be helpful. So if I'm writing for Aries, Aries goes here, about what it means for Aries to have the sun currently in the sign of Virgo. I'm going to start with Aries and count until I get to Virgo, okay? So Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, okay? That's the order of the zodiac. I'm going to count till I get to Virgo. And so how is the sun in Virgo impacting Aries signs? It's impacting Aries when it comes to the elements of this sixth house. And so while the sun is in the sign of Virgo, Aries natives, Aries sun signs may find that they're busy. They may find that they are focused on health and wellness. They may find that they're having to navigate health issues, or they're having to take on more responsibilities at work. They may find that they are doing a lot of activities that are service oriented, right? That's how the sun in Virgo is impacting Aries, okay? Let's do a horoscope for Taurus. So since we're talking about Taurus, right? We're imagining ourselves as Taurus. We're first. Taurus is going to go in this first house, okay? And then we're going to count till we get to Virgo. So here's Taurus, next sign of the zodiac, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo. And so how is Taurus being impacted by the sun's movement through Virgo? Taurus is being impacted when it comes to love and play and recreation. This is a sign that may very well experience a new love interest, that may be launching creative projects. Taurus may start to experience pleasurable pursuits that are joyous in nature, that allow it to step into its own inner child, right? And let its inner child out to play. That's how Taurus is being impacted by the sun's movement through the sign of Virgo, okay? Let's do one more. Aquarius, all right? So how is the sign of Aquarius being affected by the sun's movement through the sign of Virgo? So we're talking about Aquarius, okay? Aquarius is number one. So we're going to put Aquarius here in this first house, okay? Because we're talking about Aquarius. Our ego is centered around Aquarius. And we're going to count till we get to Virgo, all right? So remember, we're going in order by the zodiac sign. So Aquarius, next sign is Pisces. Next sign is Aries. Next is Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo. So how is Aquarius being impacted by the sun's movement through the sign of Virgo? Aquarius is being impacted when it comes to joint ventures, when it comes to the sharing of important resources, when it comes to intimate dealings, intimate matters. Aquarius may be undergoing a lot of psychological breakthroughs, may be experiencing a lot of internal turmoil, okay? Committing in new investments. These are the areas that Aquarius will be impacted by, courtesy of the sun's movement through the sign of Virgo, okay? So that is the count system. And remember, each astrologer is going to write about a different event. So that's going to change the horoscope for each zodiac sign. So let's do another example. Okay, let's talk about Jupiter in the sign of Aquarius, currently retrograde. All right. And let's say we want to write a horoscope for Aquarius. How is Aquarius being impacted by Jupiter's retrograde station in its own sign? Since we're talking about Aquarius, right? We've got our ego centered around Aquarian energy. Aquarius goes in this first house, okay? And since we're talking about Jupiter in Aquarius, where do you think Jupiter is going to go? In the first house too, right? And so the first house is that house of self, appearances, self-identity, self-actualizing, personal growth, personal development. And so if Jupiter is about expansion, right, and how we broaden ourselves, and it's in the sign of Aquarius, which, you know, is the sign of innovation and revolution. And we're talking about the sign of Aquarius and how Aquarius is being impacted by Jupiter moving through its own sign, retrograde. Then you might write a horoscope that tells Aquarian natives, that they may be focused on their own personal image, that they may be focused on ways to expand themselves through self-improvement, right? Because Jupiter is retrograde, this could look like a revision of how they see themselves, any kind of vanity changes that they may want to make. This could look like settling into activities that have brought personal growth and development, or re-strategized efforts with Jupiter retrograde when it comes to, you know, self-growth and enhancement, right? So these are, again, keeping those buzzwords in mind, these are some things that you might use to describe Jupiter retrograde in the sign of Aquarius, in terms of how that transit is affecting the sign of Aquarius, all right? Let's do the same thing for Scorpio. So we're going to talk about Jupiter retrograde in the sign of Aquarius, which is what we're experiencing right now. And we want to know how that transit is affecting the sign of Scorpio. We're talking about Scorpio. We've got our ego mind centered on Scorpio. So Scorpio begins here in this first house, and we're going to count till we get to Aquarius, okay? So by order of the zodiac, Scorpio, next sign is Sagittarius, next sign is Capricorn, next sign is Aquarius, okay? So how is Jupiter in Aquarius impacting Scorpio natives in this area here that has to do with home and family, and domestic activities and emotional foundations, right? And so remember, Jupiter expands. And so we might say that when it comes to how Jupiter in Aquarius is impacting Scorpio, this could look like relocating to a bigger home, right? This could look like new additions to the family. This could look like renovation projects are happening around the house. This could look like a lot of money being invested into a property. Jupiter is this energy that broadens and feels fortunate and abundant, right? So maybe this could also be interpreted as the healing of strained ties when it comes to family and relatives, okay? Keep in mind, Jupiter can also expand in ways that are excessive. So maybe this could be interpreted as increased activity happening on the home and family front, or greater demands on your time courtesy of loved ones, okay? Keep in mind that Jupiter is retrograde in the sign of Aquarius. So maybe this can then be written as home renovation projects that need to be reconsidered, or back and forth when it comes to a big family vacation, how to plan and be inclusive of everybody. So these are examples of what a horoscope would look like for a Scorpio native as it pertains to Jupiter retrograde in the sign of Aquarius, okay? Let's do one more, and then you're going to practice. And so we also currently have, let's see, Mars in the sign of Virgo. Is Mars in Virgo right now? Let me double check that because I think that is the case. Yes, Mars is currently in the sign of Virgo. And so we want to know how Mars in Virgo is going to affect Leo sun natives, okay? So since we're talking about Leo, Leo is number one, right? So we're going to put Leo here in this first house, and we're going to count till we get to Virgo. All right. So we got Leo, Virgo. Virgo is the sign that follows, right? And so how is Leo being impacted by Mars in the sign of Virgo? When it comes to money and finances and resources. And again, Mars is about assertion. Mars is initiating. Mars is go-getting. And so you might then interpret this as Leo's being very assertive when it comes to the accumulation of wealth and resources. And you want to get creative, right? Maybe Leo is involved in intense negotiations around a salary adjustment, right? Or a new stream of income. Maybe Leo is really kind of pushing itself when it comes to saving money for the purpose of a major investment, okay? Maybe Leo is really, making a lot of purchases, or maybe Leo is asserting itself when it comes to being on the receiving end of compensation money for money that is owed, right? This could just also look like tension when it comes to finances, especially in relationships. This could look like forced agendas around money matters. This could look like, really asserting yourself when it comes to advocating for what you need and what you value. So these are some things that you might use, words or descriptions that you might use to write a horoscope for Leo as it pertains to Mars's current transit in the sign of Virgo, okay? So that's how you craft a horoscope. Remember, horoscopes are written based off of planet alignments for one's sun at the moment of birth, okay? So we're always writing horoscopes for the sun signs. And when it comes to that count system, whatever sun sign you're writing about is always going to take the place of that initial focus, right? And if you're going to write about Leo and you want to talk about, let's say, Saturn in Aquarius, okay, then you start with Leo, you count around that zodiac wheel until you get to the sign of Aquarius. And whatever house that lands in, that's the theme of the horoscope, okay? So Leo is here. We're talking about Saturn in Aquarius, and we're going to count till we get to Aquarius. You've got Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, okay? So we know that Saturn in Aquarius by transit is affecting all Leo suns in the area that has to do with relationships, okay? So that's how you craft a horoscope, all right? Okay, so now let's practice. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I have pulled up current planet alignments according to astro.com. And what I would like for you to do is to take a few minutes to craft a horoscope. You can do it for any sign of the zodiac, and you can do it for whatever current planet transit is playing out. And actually what I'll do is share my full desktop again so that I can open up that little cheat sheet. All right. So this here, as of August 28th, tells you where all the planets are, okay? And if you're not yet familiar with all of the different glyphs and symbols, Sun is in Virgo, Moon is in Taurus as of August 28th. Mercury is also in Virgo. Venus is in Libra. Mars is in Virgo. Jupiter is in Aquarius. Saturn in Aquarius. Uranus in Taurus. Neptune in Pisces. Pluto in Capricorn. True Node, Gemini. Chiron in Aries. Okay, so that's where things are right now as far as the planet alignments above. And so knowing this information, having this information, I want you to choose whatever transit you feel comfortable with and write about it according to the zodiac signs, okay? You can write a horoscope for yourself based off of planet transits. You can write a horoscope for a different sun sign based off of planet transits. If you want to get, a bit challenging, you can incorporate multiple transits, especially if there are certain aspects being made. So I talked about this square between Saturn and Uranus. That's an aspect that's currently playing out. We've got Venus opposed Chiron. That's another aspect. We've got the moon currently almost conjunct Uranus in the sign of Taurus. And so these are things that you can combine to write about if you'd like. But you can also just keep it simple and take just one transit at a time and write about how that transit is impacting the zodiac signs, okay? And so what I will do is actually pull up my little cheat sheet and see if I can separate it for you. Did I close it out? Okay, looks like I may have closed it out, which I apologize. So let me try and pull it up for you again, if I can remember where it was. So sorry, folks, give me 1 second. Now y'all are seeing all my stuff. All right, here we go. And I think I can do thumbnails, and I can do that. Okay, everyone, bear with me here. Okay. All right, so I'm going to share my desktop. All right, so sorry. So here are the current planets. Here are the houses, all right, so that you can practice that count system. And here is the little cheat sheet that you can use as you do your interpretations, okay? And actually, this may be better to do it this way. So hopefully you all can see all of the things. All right, so I'll give you a few minutes. Again, pick whatever transit you want to write about. Whatever sun sign you want to write about. Since you're writing about the sun signs, the sun sign will always take that first house position. You want to count around until you get to the transit sign that you're writing about. And that's how you craft your horoscope. So if you're going to write about moon in Taurus for the sign of Gemini, since we're writing about Gemini, is about the ego-centered person that we're writing about. Gemini starts here, and then you count around till you get to Taurus. So you have Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus. So Moon in Taurus may be bringing Gemini some really funky dreams right now. Moon in Taurus may see Gemini feeling a bit more self-reflective, navigating some inner stuff. And you can get creative about this. Think of real world experiences. Think of real life experiences. I think that what separates, an amateur horoscope writer from a really good one. A really good one gives examples of how things could manifest. Remember to incorporate not only the energy of the sign, but also the energy of, the sign that's experiencing the transit. But make sure you're also incorporating the planet that's in transit and the sign in which that planet is transiting through, the element, right, of that sign, the quality of that sign. These are all things that you want to keep in mind and consider, and it's all fodder that can be used when it comes to crafting a horoscope. So I'll give you a few minutes, and then we'll wrap up. I think I went a little bit longer than I expected. I hope that's okay. But hopefully you all have the gist of it. You've got this cheat sheet here, which I'll make sure that you have this study guide when it comes to the horoscope wheel. And so these are some tools and resources that you can use to practice. I'm going to shut up now and give you a few minutes to write your horoscope. All right. I'm sure some of you are still writing. I definitely don't want to just keep airspace here. So practice, and definitely let me know what questions you have in the meantime. When you're writing horoscopes, keep it simple. It doesn't need to be anything lengthy, just straightforward and to the point. But most importantly, have fun with it. Enjoy yourself, be creative, write to your heart is content, and just allow messages from the universe to come through you as you're writing a horoscope. I do have to say, the first time that I wrote horoscopes, it did kind of feel like this out-of-body experience. I was surprised at how well they turned out. I also was surprised by how much I enjoyed it and shocked that I had even written them. And it definitely felt like I was divining some larger influence, i.e. the planets. So have fun with it, allow yourself to be creative with it. And thank you for your time. I'm going to wrap up here. I'm going to stop sharing and take it to you all with any questions that you might have. Thank you again. Tracy Rogers here of the Stormie Grace YouTube Academy, and I look forward to seeing all of you again soon. Bye.